Love. Some would say it took a backseat when the pandemic forced us apart. As a family-run and proudly Canadian-owned company, Charm Diamond Centers saw the need to bring us together with tales of love and created the Canadian Love Map podcast. Since then, we've shared hundreds of real, uplifting stories that prove love conquers all. So thank you for listening. We couldn't do it without you. And remember, love starts here.
This is a true Canadian love story.
We were meant to be together.
I can't imagine my life without you.
Honestly, he's the light of my life.
It's nice to be in that tractor beam of love. I'm her biggest fan.
I think I knew I'd lost my heart again.
I knew I wanted a marriage like that.
Difficult roads can lead to very beautiful destinations.
Well, love is the most important thing.
In dance, it's something that is finely tuned over many years, and trust that someone's going to be there to catch you when you go leaping into the air, and take that risk that someone will be there to catch you. And I think over all of our many years, we have built that trust, and I feel that I can always leap and you will be there.
Hi, I'm Nancy Regan. Today's love story belongs to Sara and John, high school sweethearts from Halifax, Nova Scotia, who've been together nearly 30 years. The expression, distance makes the heart grow fonder, doesn't always work out for couples who have to spend time apart. But for these two, it seems to have led to happily ever after. This is the Canadian Love Map. Sara and John, welcome to the Canadian Love Map.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really excited about this episode because, Sara, we got an email from you saying that you're a longtime listener and you decided it was about time that your story should be on this podcast. Tell me about that.
Yes, I've been listening to the Canadian Love Map since it started. I found it through another podcast of yours, actually. And I have been listening since the beginning, and I love love, and I have been so inspired by all the various stories that have been on over the seasons. And a few times along the way, I sort of thought, I think our story is pretty special. I wonder if we could ever be on that show, and I'm going to apply. And so I did on that day. But I didn't actually tell you.
She kept me in the dark, which was probably the best thing.
Yes, that's often the way, John. You aren't the first, I want to tell you. But, I love the fact that in your application, Sara, you wrote, the last line was, I'm more in love with him every day, and I feel the same excitement of spending time with him now as I did when I was 17. And that is something to celebrate. So let's go back and talk about how this relationship started.
Sure, I can start. We met in high school, and he's a twin, so he and his brother came to our school just for grade 12, and there was a lot of talk of those twins coming to our high school.
Even before they got there.
Their reputation preceded them.
Right.
They were very popular sports, soccer players, basketball players, and they were recruited to our school to come play basketball. And so the summer leading up to their arrival, there was a lot of talk that they were coming amongst the high school grade 12 girls. And we met in that first few weeks of school. I think we were in at least one class. We ended up being in a few more classes as time went on. We met then, and I guess we started going steady in December of that year.
So what was it like dating in grade 12?
Well, it was a different time then. I mean, there was no social media, there was no cell phones, it was a lot of talking on the phone, meeting up for
lunch
and sort of group parties, movies. Went to the movies a lot.
It occurs to me that when you called each other on the phone, it would have been your landline, and it was the days when you might have had to talk to a parent.
For sure. Definitely. I actually still have the little Post-it note that my mom wrote his name, John, ? Because she didn't know his last name, with his phone number. And I still have that piece of paper.
Oh, that's
because I was
romantic.
so excited. I wasn't home, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't there. But happily you left your phone number. But yeah, definitely in the days of having to say, is John there, please? Can I talk to John?
So, exactly. I remember that being very nerve-wracking.
And being
personally.
twins,
Yes.
so there was many times in the beginning, because they don't necessarily, like, they're fraternal twins. And so once you get to know them, they don't really look totally alike, but they sound a lot alike. So yes, in those early days of you guys answering the phone, I think you guys probably had some fun.
Which one is it? Yeah.
Some fun with me a little bit at the beginning. So we officially sort of started going out in December, and then June we graduated, and we had each plans to go off to university programs in the United States. And so John left for his program at the beginning of August. So we really, we graduated in June, we had July, and then off we went to our programs, which we only had plans to see each other. I think that first year we came home for Thanksgiving, possibly.
Yeah.
Wow. Where were you going, and for what programs?
So I went to a school just outside New York for a Bachelor of Fine Arts in dance. And
so I went to school in West Virginia to play soccer.
Wow.
Is that your business degree?
And study commerce, yeah.
Oh, commerce.
Yep.
So you each were away at a U.S. school, and you both were pretty busy, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. How did you manage to keep the relationship intact, or did you?
Yeah, we definitely did. And I think it was interesting. Well, as I said before, there was no email in the beginning. It came later as we were in school, but there was no. We wrote letters.
It was old-fashioned letter writing.
Old letters.
And a weekly phone call, really.
Yeah, we talked on Wednesdays and Sundays, and that was sort of scheduled and for sure. Yeah. And then that first year, yes, I had prepared some already addressed envelopes that I sent him off to school with.
Very slick. you were yeah.
Sarah's very
hedging your bets.
She makes my life easy.
And you did pull through. I still have those letters. And then over time we did have email, but it was only in the university computer lab. So we were sort of always rushing to the computer lab to check a quick email, but we definitely didn't have it at our fingertips.
So far, what you've described is the story many people have lived. You meet in high school, you go off to different universities, you try to do the long distance thing, and then it falls over a cliff. And so the difference is you guys never found that cliff.
We didn't. I mean, when we first went, we didn't put any expectations. We just said, really, is distance a reason to break up when there's nothing else wrong right now? We'd only been together for about 6 or 7 months, and we were so young, and it just seemed like we were just getting to know each other, and distance just didn't really seem like a good enough excuse for us. But we went always saying, if you meet someone or if anything happens, like, just please tell me right away so that I don't look forward to seeing you in 3 months, and then, you haven't been happy this whole time. So we, sort of set it up that it wasn't necessarily going to work, but there was no reason to not try.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. You invited candor from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward to the end of university, and what comes next?
So I had a visa, a student visa, to stay in the United States for a year. And so I chose to stay and move into New York City, which as an artist is sort of like being a minnow in an ocean.
But also a dream.
But also a dream. But it was hard. It was. I mean, as anyone who has pursued an artistic career, you're sort of working to pay the bills at night, freeing yourself up to be available to audition in the day. But sometimes those jobs may, go into the night, and then to get up and take class so that your body, your instrument is in shape. It kind of ends up being a bit of a catch-22. So I had a fantastic time there. But it was sort of a lonely time too. I was missing John, and at that point, I think was also our programs were finished. So it was kind of like, now we actually have the opportunity to be together. But I wasn't, I'd worked, my university degree to then go off and pursue that. And so we decided.
That was probably the hardest time, in the sense that we were kind of at the end of our degree. I was back in Halifax doing some university courses, and Sarah was in New York. And so then it was kind of like, what comes next? Like, we've done long distance for, 4.5 years, and what comes next,
Mm-hmm.
and, but what comes next was kind of fun. It worked out well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely came to a point where that life was getting difficult, and it didn't, even though I had a year really didn't seem like that was going to be long enough to fulfill the dream that I had there. Really, again, after 4.5 years, with our relationship, it kind of did seem like maybe we should invest some time in being together, as opposed to going further and further apart.
Yeah.
And so I came home for just a few months, I guess, and we decided we would go to Australia.
That's right, yeah. Let's go. Let's try 24/7 after 4.5 years of being apart.
This podcast is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, Canada's largest family-owned jewelry store. They are proud to be putting love on the map, and the staff at Charm Diamond Centers are thrilled to be a part of your love story too. So visit charmdiamondcenters.com or one of your local stores. Love starts here. Why Australia?
We joined a student work abroad program, which was set up through St. Mary. Well, I think it's through any of the universities here, but it was
kind of an easy place to get a visa and work and travel.
Yeah, they did all the work. They set up the visa for you. They put you up in a hostel for the first few nights. It was also the year that Sydney was hosting the Olympics, and our first plan was to work for the Olympics.
Right.
Wow.
And we signed up online, and and then we got there, and they said that we were going to be the cleanup crew, and that we were going to be sleeping in a stadium,
which is fine,
in a cot in a stadium, and
didn't seem like a lot of fun to us. So we bought a ticket, went north.
Yeah.
And it was winter there. It was August, and we'd come from our summer, and it was their winter, which really isn't cold, but it seemed cold because we were coming from our summer, and we were like, I don't. And it was so busy in Sydney. We're like, I don't think this is for us right now.
So we found a resort island and worked on that instead.
Further north. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds better. That sounds better for sure.
Yeah.
But what were you doing?
We were in the service industry. I mean, as a backpacker, the jobs are not glamorous, but there's lots of them. But we didn't really have a lot of choices. We had, you could be a pick crops, pick cucumbers or things in a field under the hot sun. You could be in the service industry, or you could be a telemarketer.
So So I worked in the hotel buffet, at the hotel buffet and at room service, and I was just terrible at both of them, really. But it was a good experience for me.
I worked at the restaurant. Yes, it was this beautiful resort in the Whitsunday Islands, and a lot of the Australian Olympians would come up to the resort after their events. And so we did get to see quite a lot of them without even having to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And what was the transition like from having been apart for so long to being together, as John says, 24/7?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I just remember it being kind of easy, just kind of natural. And we're not one, in 27 years, we don't really fight or argue or yell, and so there's nothing like that stands out. And I think we just enjoyed each other's company, and kind of, even though we were dating for 5 years, we kind of got to know each other better, and it definitely passed the test. I mean, at the end of it, we knew we could certainly be together and be committed to each other long term, for sure. So.
Well, there's got to be at least a couple bumps, or else it's not interesting. Come on. Now, of course, everybody wants to fast forward to the engagement. Will you tell us that story? How did you take it to the next level?
Well, it was good. Almost 10 years went by. Yeah. I was starting to wonder.
So we took a trip in the spring to Mont Tremblant, and had a nice trip, and a beautiful townhome, and we had a great trip, and but I could tell something was a little off with Sarah. And then when we got back to Halifax, I think it was I talked to her best friend, and I think Sarah had expected for me to ask her to marry her on that trip. So I think she had just given up after that. There wasn't like, necessarily tension, but she kind of just not gave up, but assumed that it wasn't going to happen in the near future. And there wasn't really any, I think I'm just the type of person that I was committed to her. Things were great. Wasn't in a super rush to, go through the engagement process and wedding. I knew it was going to happen someday, but that sort of accelerated the plans a little bit. And I thought, I better go get a ring. I don't really have a plan, but I better go get a ring.
You could feel the heat.
I could. So I went and purchased a ring, and but I had no idea what I was going to do with it. So I put it in my sock drawer, and then like every 2 or 3 days, I would kind of change the hiding place, because we were living together at that time, and just kept changing the hiding place. And 2 or 3 months had passed, and still no ring on Sarah's finger, and still no idea how I was going to, propose. And then we were going on a trip just outside the city at a cottage with 2 other couples, and really, really good friends of ours. And
place that was quite special to us. We'd been there as a couple numerous times, is by the ocean, by Peggy's Cove, and in that particular time we went with 2 other couples. We shared a larger cabin.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm gonna take the ring with me. No idea what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm gonna take it. If I do use it, she's never gonna expect that I'm gonna propose to her with friends there. So we have it. One night passes, the next day comes. It's a beautiful, beautiful day out, and I asked her to canoe out to the island.
And I said no.
There's not.
I said I don't really feel like it. And our friend said, I'll go. I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, great.
She wasn't married at the time, so somebody was going to get a ring.
Did her finger fit the ring by any chance? Same size?
Just about, yeah.
So last minute, I think I actually I don't think I did. So last minute, Sarah said, well, okay, I'll go for a canoe ride. So then...
Well, you were kind of pushing it. You were kind of saying, are you sure you don't want to go? And I was like, oh.
So then I had to run back to the room, and she's waiting in the canoe, and I'm trying to find the ring, and I find the ring, and then I'm like, I don't know what to do with it, so where to put it. So I put it in my glasses case, and so here I am coming down. I've got a couple of beers, and and my glasses case, and we're getting in the canoe, and we start canoeing towards the island, and halfway there, Sarah goes, "Why do you have your glasses case?"
You don't even have your glasses on.
I don't even have my glasses on. I don't know what I said, I have my sunglasses in there or something. Just
Sure. She had to be that observant, right?
She is.
But I wasn't cluing in.
She did
at
not
all.
clue in. Yeah.
I pretty much kind of sort of not given up, but I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. So we got to this island, and out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and not quite the middle, but off the coast, and walked over to a nice spot on the island, and I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me, and you could see her. Our friends were coming out in the canoe as well, and so they were.
They had
Screaming.
no idea.
I think they were screaming. Or you?
Well, yeah, I was screaming from the island.
You were screaming from the island. So
but I think they thought we needed help. So they're canoeing faster.
Yeah. Anyways, it was great. They arrived and we celebrated together, and it was great. And it was great to have them there. It was great to do it at this location because we ended up getting married at this location as well. So it's a pretty special spot for us. Yeah.
And we've gone back every year since.
We go back every year. Yeah.
And so you had your wedding there as well?
Mm-hmm. We did. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was great. I mean, it poured the entire day leading up to the wedding. So to look at the photos, you'd never know, but I definitely remember it was like sheets of rain, and I just remember being in the car driving from Halifax out to the venue. John had stayed there the night before, and I was in the front and I could see my bridesmaids in the back, and they kept going, like they're just like shaking their head and going, "This is so bad." And I was like, I can see you in the mirror. And I just thought, what are we going to do? It's supposed to be outside. And
yeah, the organizer kept saying we have to move the chairs, indoors. We have to move everything indoors.
We had a tent, but it was supposed to be down on the shore, looking out at the island where we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the ceremony was at 5, and probably at 4 they were saying, well, we should move all the chairs into the tent now, and the musicians, their instruments, they can't get wet. And
kept saying it's going to clear.
Yes.
And it did.
Yeah. At the 11th hour, it did.
Beautiful.
The sun came out, and to look at the photos, you never know.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good omen.
It was.
And you have 2 kids now. Yeah. So how does that relationship you're talking about, how does that work parenting? Are you really a great team parenting?
I think so. It's Sarah probably carries a bigger load than I do, but for me, just I think watching her, grow, no one tells you how to be a parent. There's not a manual, and I think just watching her, grow into the mother she is, and the bond that she has with the kids has been really special for me, and she just makes me love her even more, and so she's taken that challenge on, and it's just been incredible.
Because we know each other so well too that we can sense when the other one needs a break, or we can sense when the other one should come in and take over, or we know sort of our values together that can kind of sort of I don't even have to say, go ask your father, because I already know what his answer is going to be.
That's handy.
Yeah. So I think we work well together in that way. We can spell off when needed, and then we are a united front the rest of the time.
Yeah. Okay. So I asked this question of couples who are on the Canadian Love Map, and I'm going to start with you, John. What do you love most about your wife?
So there's probably lots, but I'll focus on just her loyalty and commitment. I mean, when I think of not just our marriage, obviously that's one part of it, and to give you an example, we have a picture hanging, a picture that Sarah commissioned of an owl from a local artist, and owls are beautiful, but it's the message behind the owl. Is that apparently they mate for life, and which I didn't know, but she's just super loyal, super committed to us. But then it goes further, just to watch her with the commitment that she has for the family unit and the kids. So she's just I love that she is committed and all into and dependable for myself, but also just all her relationships.
Well, again, there are numerous things, but I'll focus on 3. One is that he is genuinely kind. He is extremely generous. He always wants to help people succeed, whether it's his family, his clients, his friends. He's just incredibly, genuinely kind. Second, he's very calm. He's a very calm presence in my life. I can be sometimes a little all over the place, perhaps. And he is a very calming presence in my life, which makes me feel very safe. And third, he's my best friend. He is someone that I can't imagine my life without, and someone that wherever he is, I want to be there, always.
Beautiful. You took part in such a committed way in dance, Sara, and John, you soccer and tennis. All of those require fancy footwork. And I want to know if you can tell me how marriage is like dance, Sara, for you, and soccer or tennis for you, John.
With soccer, it's a team sport, and you can't succeed without others. You can't do it on your own, and but also, when you have a bad day, someone's there to pick you up. And I think when I think of marriage, it's a team sport, and we're in this together. And when one of us isn't at our best, the other one, will rise up and help and pull and lift the other one up, I think, and lift their spirits up. And that's been my experience. And I think when team sports, whether it's marriage or even working career or relationships, I think help you learn to kind of win together and achieve something together. And that's what I feel like we're doing in life, is that we're achieving success together.
Beautiful. Sara.
I would say actually it's quite similar, except in dance, there's perhaps a performance at the end of it. But in dance, it's something that is finely tuned over many, many, many years, and there's constant sort of tweaking and improving. And I think once you start working with a partner, then there's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of taking someone else's weight and then giving your rate, and trust, and trust that someone's going to be there to catch you when you go leaping into the air, and take that risk that someone will be there to catch you. And I think over all of our many years, we have built that trust, and I feel that I can always leap and you will be there.
Well, Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's been fun talking to you today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the show.
Thanks so much for listening to the Canadian Love Map. If you love us, please subscribe and share. We'll be back next week with another love story to add to the map. This podcast is presented and made possible by Charm Diamond Centers. It's hosted by me, Nancy Regan, and is produced and distributed by Podstarter.
This
has been
a Podstarter
production.